Now we're going to illustrate the different properties of operation and set of integers. So we're going to first to recall the rules in adding and subtracting and multiplying, dividing of integers. So 5 plus 3 is equal to 8 and 3 plus 5 is equal to 8. If you notice, kahit na magkabaliktad yung numbers, the same pa rin ang answer. So 0 plus 6 is 6. 11 plus 0 is 11. So ang observation, kapag ang number i-plus mo sa 0, ang answer is sarili niya. Next, 2 plus 3, it's 5 plus 4 is 9. Dito naman, ang uunahin mo dito is 3 plus 4. So 3 plus 4, 7 plus 2 is 9. So, the observation here is, kahit saan lang unahin mo i-plus, ang answer dapat is pareho lang. So, 2 times 7, it's 14. Tapos 7 times 2, it's 14. Kung baliktarin mo yung numbers, pareho pa rin yung answer. So, 1 times 10, 10. 1 times 8, 8. So, any number multiplied by 1, the answer is itself. So, 0 times 21, that's 0. 5 times 0 is 0. So, kapag any number i-times mo ng 0, ang answer is 0. So, in adding and multiplying integers, you have to consider the different properties of integers. The first property of addition and multiplication is the closure property of addition. So, closure property of addition is just like this. Ang example niya is 7 plus 9. 7 plus 12 is 19. Negative 15 plus 12 is negative 3. So, these are just examples for, ibig sabihin nito, kahit anong integers, kapag i-plus mo, ang answer dapat is another integer. So, for closure property of multiplication, kapag ang integer i-times mo, dapat ang answer pa rin is integer. So, that's closure property of multiplication is and addition. So, for any integers a and b, a times b is an integer. This is closed under multiplication. Since the factors are integers, the product is also an integer. For addition, kapag i-plus mo itong dalawang integer, dapat integer pa rin ang sagot. For commutative property of addition, for commutative property of multiplication, so ang ganito, ang mangyari dito is, kapag 6 plus negative 2, ibaliktarin mo, negative 2 plus 6. Kahit kung baliktarin mo yung number, kailangan the same pa rin yung answer. So, 6 plus negative 2, it's positive 4. Negative 2 plus 6 is positive 4. 7 times negative 5 is negative 35. Tapos negative 5 times 7 is negative 35. Ibig sabihin, kahit baliktarin mo yung numbers, dapat pareho pa rin yung answers. So, the order of addends and the order of factors will not affect the product. So, kahit baliktad yung mga numbers, it should not affect the product and the sum. For associative property of addition and associative property of multiplication, ang dito naman is, ibig sabihin ng what is inside the parentheses, yun ang uunahin mong i-add. So, in here, 3 plus 7, it's become 10, plus negative 4, magiging minus, magiging answer na is 6. So, nauna mo dito, inuna mo ditong 3 plus 7. How about kung unahin mo naman ang 7 plus negative 4? So, kung 7 plus negative 4 ang uunahin mo, it's magiging 3 plus 7 plus negative 4 is 3. So, equal to 6. So, ang mangyari niyan, it's the same pa rin yung answer. So, the same pa rin ang answer kahit saan ang unahin mo dyan. So, it's still okay kung saan ang unahin mo dyan. Basta plus lahat. Kung times naman lahat, kung unahin mo ditong yung naunang dalawa, so 4 times 5 is 20 times 7, that's 140. The answer is 140. Kung unahin mo naman yung dalawang nasa huli, bago mo i-times sa 4, so 5 times 7 is 35, tapos i-times mo sa 4, ang answer pa rin is 140. So, kahit saan ang unahin mo dyan, basta i-plus mo yung tatlong numbers, ang answer pa rin should be the same. So, halimbawa, kung ito ang sa classmate mo, inuna niya dito ang 4 times 5, tapos ikaw inuna mong 5 times 7, tapos magkaiba ang sagot nyo, ibig sabihin yan, either it's one of you is wrong. So, you should check your answer. Kasi basta pareho ng number, tapos times lahat, the answer should be the same. Kahit saan pa yung unahin mo. Kahit na 4 times 7 ang unahin mo, or 5 times 7, or 4 times 5, the answer should be the same. And that's associative property of addition or associative property of multiplication. Usually, may mga parentheses, that's associative property of addition or multiplication. Next property is the identity property of addition. So identity property of addition, it's from the word identity. Ibig sabihin, ano yung number na kapag i-plus mo, ang answer is yung number. The same pa rin yung number. So, it's in here 0. Kasi any number plus added to 0, ang sagot is that the number. So, 15 plus 0 is 15. 0 plus negative 8 is negative 8. So, that's identity property of addition. So, kung sa multiplication naman, anong i-times mo sa number? Para yung answer is yung number pa rin. That's 1. Very good. 32 times 1 is 32. 1 times negative 15 is negative 15. So, the sum of any numbers and 0 will always be equal to the number. The identity element of addition is 0. So, ibig sabihin, kapag kahit anong number ka i-add mo sa 0, ang number pa rin ang sagot. So, the same pa rin yung sagot. It's the number. So, ang tawag sa 0 is the identity element of addition. For multiplication, the identity element of multiplication is 1. So, any number multiplied to 1 is just the same 32. So, ang tawag dyan is identity property. Kapag plus addition, identity property of multiplication kapag times. Next, for additive inverse. So, identity naman is the same number. Pero kung additive inverse, ibig sabihin yan, the answer would be the identity element. So, in here, dapat ang answer dito is 0. So, anong number kapag i-plus mo sa 10, ang answer is 0. It's negative of the number. So, 10 plus negative 10 is 0. So, for in this one, kung negative siya, negative 2, i-plus mo siya sa positive na 2, para ang answer is 0. So, ang tawag dyan is, it's the additive inverse property. For any integer a plus negative a is equal to 0. Ibig sabihin yan, ang a, i-plus mo sa negative na a is 0. So, 1 plus negative 1 is 0, or negative 1 plus 1 is 0. So, the opposite of the given integer is called its additive inverse. The sum of a number and its additive inverse is 0. So, ibig sabihin yan, ang 10, ang additive inverse niya is negative 10. Dito ang identity property is always the same. It's 0. Pero kung dito naman sa additive inverse, iba-iba. Depende sa number. So kung kung positive 10, it's negative 10. Kung negative 2, ang additive inverse niya is positive 2. So that's for the additive inverse. Next is the multiplicative inverse. Multiplicative inverse is, dapat ang answer is 1 kasi the identity element of multiplication, diba, is 1. So, ano yung number kapag i-times mo sa 3, ang answer is 1. That's 1/3. So, 1/3 yan kasi cancel mo, diba? Cancellation method. So, cancel mo, ang natira na is 1, so 1. So, cancel mo negative 5, natira is 1. So, the multiplicative inverse is the reciprocal. The reciprocal of the given integer is called its multiplicative inverse. The product of the number and its multiplicative inverse is 1. So, 3 times 1/3 is equal to 1. Ang tawag dito sa 1/3 is reciprocal. Ang nangyari dyan is ang 3, reciprocal ng 3 is 1/3. Ang reciprocal ng negative 5 is 1 over negative 5. Igawin mo lang siya, lagyan mo ng 1 sa taas, over, kupihin mo ng number. So, 1 over negative 5 is just the same as negative 1/5. Alam mo, kung 3 over 2, ang reciprocal niyan, ibalik tayo mo lang 2 over 3. So, alam mo, kung 1 and 1/3, to get the reciprocal of this one, you need muna gawin siyang improper fraction, tapos baliktarin mo. So, 1 and 1/3, diba, is the same as 4 over 3. So, this is equal, the reciprocal of this one is 3 over 4. So, that's the reciprocal. So, again, baliktarin mo lang. Pero kung number, kasi 3 over 1 yan siya. So, kung baliktarin mo, 1 over 3. So, or, kapag 3 lang, 1 over 3. 1 over the number, 1 over the number. Kapag number lang, hindi siya fraction. Pero kung fraction, baliktarin mo lang. That's the multiplicative inverse. Next, the zero property of multiplication. So this is just easy. Any number multiplied by 0 is equal to 0. So negative 98 times 0 is 0. 0 times 12 is 0. 1 million times 0 is 0. Negative 1 million is times 0 is 0. So, kahit anong number kapag i-times mo sa 0, the answer is 0. That's the zero property of multiplication. Next, the distributive property of multiplication over addition, its distributive property. So, this is one of the most used property in algebra. It's a distributive property from the word distributive or distribute. So, what you're going to do here is distribute. So, ang 6, instead na i-plus mo itong nasa gitna, na 4 plus 8, what you're going to do is distribute mo. Una mong i-times is 6 sa 4, 6 times 4, tapos 6 times 8. So, that's distribution, so, or distributive property. So, 6 times 4, tapos maging 6 times 8. So, for this one, ang dito sa left side is inad yung sa loob. So, 6, kinopya yung 6, 4 plus 8 is 12. So, 6 times 12 is 72. Pero kung gagamitin natin yung distributive property, so, unahin natin 6 times 4, that's 24, plus 6 times 8 is 48. The answer should be the same, 72. That's distributive property. Again, ito i-distribute mo itong 6 sa 4 at saka sa 8. For this one, i-distribute mo negative 5 sa negative 3, negative 5 sa positive 10. So, negative 5 times negative 3, it's positive 15 plus negative 5 times 10, it's negative 50. Kapag plus mo itong dalawa, that's negative 35. So, that's for the distributive property of multiplication over addition. For this activity, what you're going to do here for test 1 is complete the following to make true statements, then determine the property applied. We're just going to answer number 1. So, 18 plus blank is equal to 6 plus 18. So, sa palagay mo, ano yung number na missing dito? So, ang ginawa dito is, yung 18 na una siya, dito nahuli siya. So, probably ang answer dito is 6. So, the missing number is 6. So, then missing number ang 6. So, isula mo dyan, 6. So, kapag binaliktad, anong tawag sa property na yon? It's commutative property of addition. So, commutative property of addition. Commutative, it could also be I think it's commutative, the usual for Filipinos, but for some, it's pronounced as commutative property. So, this is commutative property of addition. So, that's for number 1. So, you could continue answering from 1 to 10. Thank you and God bless.